What are the aspects of music one should focus on when one is starting to learn music? We have clarified the need for a guru, and we have clarified how one can go about choosing a guru. Now, I would also want to share in this video aspects of, what are those musical aspects one has to learn in one's journey towards building a musical mind, towards learning music. Let me list them out for you here. Number one is Shruti. Shruti or Sur. Sur is what they call in Hindustani music, Shruti in Carnatic music, but it's one and the same. Laya. Laya or Tala. Laya is the overarching concept once again, but Shruti Mata, Laya Pita, that's the saying. And then you have the Bhava, then you have the Raga, then you have voice culture, then you have composition, and then you have notation. So these are the aspects that one has to learn. Let me try and go into each one of them and try and explain why it is important to learn all of these aspects to bring in a rich musical mind and learn good music and become a good musician. So number one is Shruti or Sur. The first aspect you need to learn when you're learning from a good guru, and this is what the guru should teach, is ekagrata and focus when it comes to matching your voice or your instrument with the Shruti. Simply said, you are matching your sa with the with the Shruti or the Tanpura's sa, and this goes perfectly in Shruti. There is a perfect resonance between what you are singing or playing and the Shruti. That's a Shruti, right? And this aspect, the guru has to constantly prod you and correct you and make sure that you are really touching the note at the right frequency and make you see it. So that's also one, the need for a guru there, because we are not talking about mathematical concepts or abstract this is very abstract when it comes to really bringing in the trying and understanding what sur it is. The second aspect is Laya. Laya is not necessarily just the Tala, but Laya is also, I'm speaking right now in this video in a particular Laya. So a child cries out for its mother in a different Laya, and so on and so forth. So Laya is there in every aspect of human life. It's not just equated with Tala. So Laya is also to be learned from a guru, and the variety of aspects of Laya also need to be imbibed for one to become a good musician. The third aspect is the Bhava. We'll come to the Bhava later. We'll cover the Raga. The Raga is a set of melodic phrases. One should not get confused with Raga being a subset of a Thaat or a Melakarta. That's an important aspect which I want to clarify. Melakartas and Thaats are the creations of the last 200-300 centuries. Melakartas in Carnatic music have come built by Venkatamakhi, and Thaats in Carnatic music, in Hindustani music, have been built by Bhatkande and Palushkar. But it's incorrect to say that these are the starting points of creation of rags. Rags have existed for hundreds of thousands of years. So when you talk about a Bhupali or when you talk about a Mohanam, for example, it's not correct to say it's a janya of a Melakarta or a janya of a Thaat. Bhupali has existed for hundreds of years. These Thaats have come probably a couple of 100 years back. And Bhupali or Mohanam has had its own existence. So it's only in the technical parlance that one is trying to understand. So once again, coming back to the Rag. Rag is a set of melodic phrases which one needs to learn and understand to become more musical. So we've covered Shruti, Laya, Rag, and then the next aspect is voice culture. When it comes to an instrument, it's the tone, the tonal quality of the instrument that you're producing. And here, um, for vocalists, this is your instrument. This is your biological instrument. So, how do you build good voice culture? That's also an aspect which is very scientific. It has physics and biology involved in it. A lot of learning from the Western vocal methods can be brought into even in our Indian classical system, and we can learn on building the proper voice culture technique. So that's also important. The next is the composition. In Hindustani music, you have the Dhrupad compositions prior 16th century, even post 16th century. Notably, where I'm coming to is Sadarang and Adarang brought in the Khayal ang of compositions from the 16th century onward. So the Dhrupad, the Khayal, the Thumri, the Dadra, the Tappa, Abhang, Bhajans, all of these are different types of compositions in the Hindustani music. When it comes to Carnatic music, you've had a lot of saint composers. You've had the trinity of the 18th century, Sadguru Tyagaraja Swami. You have had Muthuswami Dikshitar. You've had Shyama Shastriji. And then if you go beyond the 18th century, prior to the 16th, 15th century, you have Annamacharya, Ramadasu, Purandaradasa. These are all saint composers who have composed melodic pieces in praise of their own lords. So, because they have never really formally sat, there was never an instance where they were formally sitting down and said, I want to pen this composition. These are natural compositions which came out from them in praise of the Lord. They are very, very musical and divine in nature. So one needs to get an insight into some of these compositions, at least learn them. It's important for the Hindustani musicians to learn some of these Carnatic compositions at least. It just makes your mind more musical and complete, right? So that's the importance of the composition. And similarly, it's essential for the Carnatic musicians to learn bandishes, let us say the lighter aspects of Hindustani music, which include the Thumri, Tappa, and so on. Bring in those aspects, maybe Abhang or Bhajan. It helps bring in a wider outlook for the Carnatic musicians as well. So that's how both these forms of music have a lot of components which really help make Indian music much more complete. Then you go into the notational aspect of musical learning. The student needs to be conversant with following either one of the paddhatis of writing notations. There are two paddhatis of writing notations in Hindustani music, the Digambar and the Paluskar method. And then in the Carnatic music, which is, depending on what's your Matrubhasha, which language you are conversant in, you can write it, any which way. So the student needs to be comfortable in notating a composition in his own way. One needs to remember that no matter which form of notation you use, none of these notational forms are complete. Some of the vocalization and some of the aspects, embellishments of our Indian music, you cannot just notate them. You have to remember them. You need to remember that over the centuries, these were passed by word of mouth. And, notating something like this to be in exact nature is difficult, nearly impossible, right? So the student needs to have the ability to notate with the understanding of, how he needs to render this part of what he has written down. The recording, I encourage students to record the class precisely for this reason, where they are able to also look at the notation, but also listen to what they are singing, what I'm teaching, and so on. So it's very important to also make sure that you have a recording of your guru, and looking at your notation. So let me summarize all of these aspects which I have mentioned just now. You have the Shruti, the Laya, the Raga, the Bhava, the voice culture, the composition, and the notation. The 7 aspects of musical learning. And this hopefully should demystify the reason why you need to go to a guru to teach all of these abstract concepts and in a methodical way, so that for a student, in his brain you have you slowly start making the mind musical, and slowly start bringing in the true musical understanding and the true nature of music as a whole for the student to understand. So these are the aspects of musical learning that one needs to imbibe when one sets out on a journey of musical learning. Thank you very much.